Hey everyone, Lisa Chastain, and it is another episode of Real Money. Today I'm with my guest, Liza Henley. She's also a Vegas local and has an amazing story of how she's brought herself up. We're going to talk about some things that we did as teens in Vegas too. And what she said right before this show is that she is on a mission to be the woman that she needed. So this episode is for you who's looking for a mentor, who's looking for inspiration, and who's looking for someone to show you the way. I believe that Liza's story is going to be amazing. Let's get to it. Hi.
I'm
We're
excited
live.
for this. Lisa and Liza.
Okay, is it after Liza Minnelli?
Well, no. So
'cause
it was Elizabeth as my mom's best friend's name. And then 5 seconds after I was born, they decided to call me Liza. So I don't know really why they did that. Mm-hmm. She wants me to change it legally to
Really?
Liza.
Your mom wants you to change it?
You want me to pay to change the name that you gave me? What? But yes, yeah. Mom.
Thanks, Mom. Yeah. So I'm Lisa because when I was born, my parents had twins, but they didn't know they were going to have me. So they had my brother. He came out, and they were like, yay, little boy. And then 4 minutes later, I was like, hey, I'm here.
Can you imagine?
I can't imagine. So it was either going to be Christopher or Christine. But now they had two, and they couldn't have two Chris's. So they didn't know what to name me. So for 10 days, I didn't have a name.
10 days.
Yeah,
Wow.
it took them a long time. But then I was little, so they were like, Lisa, I can't name her. We can't name her. I think it was going to be Elizabeth, but they were like, that's way too long. So Lisa it is.
Okay, so has anyone sang the song to you? Like Lisa with an... No, it's Liza with a Z, not Lisa with an S, because Liza with a Z goes nuts.
No.
Okay, so I've gotten that song. I've gotten There's a Hole in the Bucket, Dear Liza, Dear Liza. Like, and everyone thinks they're the first one to say it.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, there's a hole in the bucket, Dear Liza. I'm like, okay,
Never heard that
right,
before.
I know.
Never heard that before. Yeah.
So sometimes, depending on like the crowd, like the age group, hi, I'm Elizabeth.
Ah,
Like if they're like a 70-year-old man-ish, it's Elizabeth.
because otherwise they'll start singing this song.
Oh, they will. It's like clockwork. And they all think that they're like really original.
I love that so much. Okay. We found each other. Well, I found you basically on Facebook. So I put a shout out on Facebook. I said, who do you know that's crushing it in multi-level marketing? You're my first guest on the show to talk about multi-level marketing. And there are a lot of money coaches actually that are public about not going into multi-level marketing.
Yeah.
And people have a lot of opinions about multi-level marketing.
A whole lot.
Yeah. So I want to lean in there and then we'll cover a lot of your story. Why, for you, is this the right fit for you? And how have you been able to create so much success?
So there's a lot of people that have a lot to say about it. But
Yeah.
I'm not someone that I used to defend it. I used to get really like in your face, like we're going to go toe to toe. But it has a negative reputation for a reason. And I had to recognize that and then want to be the change that we needed to see, right? So for me, I have 2 older sisters and a little brother that are wicked smart. They were all valedictorians, multiple degrees. And school came hard for me. It was really, I remember my first memory of school was 3rd grade sitting at the island with my parents fighting with each other because I was having a hard time learning. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. They're fighting because I can't figure this like math problem out. Like this is a problem, right? So from a really young age, I think I told myself that I had like restraints around what my capabilities were. And so for a long time, I really didn't think that I was going to be something big. I thought I was always kind of like the funny one. I was always the party one. I was always the one, like, if you wanted to have a good time, I would be the one that you would call. And then in my 20s, I was working in the emergency room and I was introduced to the idea of network marketing, and I had never heard of it before. I had heard of Avon. My grandma ordered Avon, but I didn't understand, didn't look into it, didn't recognize it at all. And so I watched a video and was like, wait, this, like, normal people can do this. Mm-hmm. Not like you have to be like fancy to be a lawyer, or you have to be really well spoken to be a PR person, or maybe you have to be really pretty to be on the news, or maybe like all of these things that I didn't think that I had. I saw network marketing as I could take all of the skills that I know that I have. Because here's also the thing. I've always known that I have magic.
Yeah.
I didn't know what kind of magic, but I also knew from a young age until now, I walk into a room and I get different reactions than some people. And I knew that, but I just didn't think there was a profession for me to put that into. And so I saw network marketing and I said, wait a minute, like this is brilliant. Like it's a completely different distribution model. Like I like this. And then fast forwarding to now, I was just having a conversation with a girlfriend of mine who's also a business partner and also someone that I coach. And she was listing off, I said, listen, if you could close your eyes right now and you had no restrictions and nothing holding you back, what are all the things you want to do? And she said, I want to write a book and I want to coach women and I want to have free time and I want to be able to take time off when I want to and not have it hurt my business. And I want to be able to help other people make money, but I also want to help people be healthy. And I also want to, and she's listing all of these things. And I said, okay, now open your eyes. Mm-hmm. Name 3 professions you know that you can do all of those things in. And she said, well, if I'm being honest, because she also doesn't have capital, right? She doesn't have any, like, she doesn't have anything to start real estate or to start, She said, if I'm being honest, it's network marketing.
Yeah.
It's social selling. It's multi-level marketing. And I said, and that's the reason no one will be able to change my mind about what this industry does.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of capital. You don't have to be really smart. You don't have to be really pretty. You don't have to be really rich. You don't have to come from a great background. You don't have to have a sad story. You don't have to have all of the, you can be you and you can show up as you.
Yeah.
So as we were starting this show, your producer said, be you, do you. And immediately it's just like,
yeah.
And for me, network marketing is something that I can be me and be really successful and help a lot of people also be really successful.
I love that. Why do you think it gets such a bad rap?
Well, let me drink for that one.
It's just water. It's 10 a.m.
It's also, it's just water. My mouth was dry. Sorry. I think that it's an easy industry to get into in terms of capital, money, right? Like you can start a business for as little as $40 to $1,000 to whatever, different companies have different startups. And so you can start it without having a lot. You can start it without a lot of risk. And what's the saying? Without a lot of risk, there's not a lot of reward. And so when you don't put a lot of skin in the game, life can come up.
Yeah.
Right? And so there's kind of like the godfather of network marketing. His name is Jim Rohn. And he'll say, the screen door fell off the hinges, or the trash was getting too full, or right? And so then we're trying to chase the birds. We're trying to chase the people that are saying it's bad. So then we stop doing what we initially started to do, which was trying to build a business, trying to build an additional stream of income. And there are people that have had some failure with it and then think that the opportunity or the model doesn't work, when in reality, they just didn't do it in a way that worked for them.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So it didn't work for them. And also people have their own relationship with sales.
Right.
So network marketing and sales go hand in hand. You don't always see it as help or service.
Right.
So then I think people have their own aversions to sales. And I don't want to go down that road. I want to talk about all the amazing things that it can do and that it has done for your life.
Yeah.
Let's start with your story.
Okay.
So you went to Cimarron.
Palo Verde.
Palo Verde. Dang it. I thought it was Cimarron.
I'm a Panther girl. Come on.
All right. Palo Verde. What's your Vegas story?
So I moved to Vegas when I was 13. My dad is a musician and my mom's parents lived in Phoenix. And so Vegas is kind of where they settled on. I was in 8th grade and it was a shock. It was a big shock. Like nothing about Las Vegas is the same as this tiny little town in Michigan that I grew up in. And so I never saw a lot of, like, I mean, you can drive down the Vegas Strip and you can see like naked girls everywhere and you can see all this stuff. So all of that was new, right? Or what? Every time I would drive home from work from the hospital and I would see the sign by Deja Vu where it says like, hate your wife, no problem. Like, come see us, right? So like, that's now my norm, right?
Yeah. We had teachers in high school who went to Deja Vu and talked about it on campus. And then there were girls on campus who were working at Deja Vu who saw their teachers. That's Vegas.
Well, yeah, because you could be 18 so I turned 18 in January. And so now I'm an adult in high school, so I can do all the Vegas things. Yeah. Well, not all of them, but.
We'll get to that in a minute.
So kind of fast forward, my parents have been married for a million years. I have 2 older sisters and a little brother, and we all went to one of my sisters and a couple of my sisters and my brother, we went to Palo Verde, and then we went to UNLV. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to go to college, but it wasn't really a choice. My mom is a nurse, but my dad's been an entrepreneur, and so it was, you have to go to school for 2 different reasons. Number 1, because I didn't, and I know the struggle, and number 1, because I did, and I've been the breadwinner type of thing.
Your mom is the breadwinner.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I mean, they kind of shared it equally, but my mom, she had the steady job always. My dad was a hustler. He was an entrepreneur. He had his own business. And so my mom, it was a guaranteed paycheck on a regular basis. But the idea of doing the same thing for the rest of my life absolutely terrified me. So I had 6 majors in college.
Yeah.
I jumped around a whole lot. But my first major was criminal justice. And the first time we had a guest speaker, I was like, I'm supposed to chase after you? Like, this is not going to work. Like, I'll run away from you. And then my third major was hotel management. And we had a guest speaker. And he said, listen, in this city, unless you die or you move, these positions don't go vacant. Like, you have to really work hard to work your way up. And I was like, okay, well, that's silly. I'm not going to break my back for positions that may not exist. And then I kept going down the list, and nursing was one of my majors, and education was one of my majors, and none of them really sat well with me. And so I worked at a car wash when I was 16, 17, 18, 19. And
Fabulous Freddy's.
Yeah, I worked at Fabulous Freddy's. So I say fabulous way too much. How's your day? Fabulous. How are you? Fabulous. Have a fabulous day.
I remember when Fabulous Freddy's opened up, and that was before any other car washes were really big in town, even before maybe Terrible's was around, but I don't think so. It was a big deal, Fabulous Freddy's. Yeah.
It's like a full service.
Yeah.
So you can get your gas pumped. You then drive up to this little thing, and like a cute little girl writes your your car wash ticket, and then you go through this tunnel. Oh my gosh, I have so many stories from there.
Yeah.
But so as a ticket writer, I would gain relationships with the people that would come in on a regular basis. And so we never had money, but we never didn't have money. Does that mean we couldn't go out to dinner as a family because that would cost too much money? But we never didn't have food on the table. We didn't take vacations. We didn't do everything was about money, but nothing was about money. Does that make sense?
Yep. It's a very middle class mindset.
Yeah. Money doesn't grow on trees.
Yep.
We can't have that. I had multiple older sisters, and so I got a lot of hand-me-downs and all that. And
How many older sisters?
3.
Okay.
One of them's 10 years older than I am. And her and I are thick as thieves. It's the greatest thing. And then one of them is 2.5 years older than I am, and then one's a couple months older than I am.
Okay. A couple months?
Family dynamics. She kind of came into our family.
Gotcha. Okay. I was like, how does that happen?
Multiple, scandal.
What?
No, she kind of came into our family when I was 13. But so where was I?
You worked at Fabulous Freddy's.
Yeah, so I worked at Fabulous Freddy's. And I got to cultivate relationships with people. I think I've always been a relationship cultivator. I think I always knew that if I want to get ahead, if I kind of about who you know and what kind of relationships you can create and then what you can learn from other people and different experiences and perspective, And so there was a couple gentlemen that really took to my liking, and they kind of followed me along my journey, if you will. And so
How young were you at that
16.
time?
And so they had been coming for 2 years. So I was about to turn 18, and everyone, it was the Fabulous Freddy's family. And so everyone kind of knows everybody. When people are celebrating certain things. And so the day that it was my 18th birthday, I worked that day. And he came in and says, hey, you get off at 5, right? Didn't think anything of it. Yeah. And he's like, well, I'm going to get this car wash. I'm going to go home and I'm going to get my other car wash. I'm going to get a couple of my car wash detailed. After 5, why don't you come over with me? Let me take you out to dinner. Didn't think it was weird. Well, I must have thought it was weird enough where I texted my sister. On the T9 where you're like, A, B, 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 C, C, C. And so you can't even discreetly text. You're like, hi, I am typing here. And so I let her know hey, remember the guy I told you about? He's going to take me out to dinner for my birthday. And right across the street was P.F. Chang's and all that. So this is on Fort Apache and Charleston.
Charleston.
Yeah. And so right on there's Fabulous Freddy's right here. And then there's P.F. Chang's and all those restaurants,
Boca
right?
Park.
Yeah. Then right a couple of a little bit up the road is the what neighborhood is
Queensridge.
that? Queensridge. So he says, hey, leave your car here. I'll drive us. I got to stop at my house really quick. I'm like, okay. Inside I'm like, I text my sister, hey, this is I don't know. We're going to his house first. I don't know what's going on. Just to let you know, whatever. And so she's like, what are you doing? Abort mission. And I'm like, no, I'm just going to go see. So I go into his house, outside, stunning, gorgeous, beautiful, massive. And I'm like, okay, wait a minute. This might not be so bad after all. He's not going to try to physically hurt me. He's not going to try to rape me. He's not going to try to do anything like that. I fully thought, right? Which he didn't, thankfully. But I go in and the house is empty. There's nothing in the house. No one's living in this house. He doesn't live here. And so I'm like, okay. takes me to the kitchen island, and there's chairs there. So we sit down, and he's like, I got to do something really quick. He flips open his computer, and it's a spreadsheet. And it's like big money on these spreadsheets. And I'm intrigued. I like money.
How big?
Like
thousands and thousands.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like $300,000, like $265,000, $110,000. And then like the lowest amount I think on the list was like $57,000. And it was a month.
Wow.
Right? So the month, oh my gosh. It was January. Oh, I'm going to start to like shake even. It was in January. So the previous month was December. So the 400,000, he said, December is always a big month. A big month for what? He always would tell us he was like, he did business and he did big deals and he had, big clients come in town. But I wasn't, I'm nosy, but not like nosy enough to like kind of find out what kind of clients you have.
Plus you're 18. What do you know?
Right.
Right?
Well, so in walked a girl that was beat to shit. Both black eyes, cracked lip, in a mini dress, hair curled, makeup trying to cover the clearly beat. And I was like, holy shit. I know what's happening right now. He could tell that I was immediately uncomfortable. And so he like touches my arm and he says, hey, you don't have listen. So what happens here, I help these women make a lot of money. And so at this time, do you remember can't remember what they're called, but the towers are Turnberry? No. The towers that are built right across from Tivoli Village, those condos.
Yeah. I don't know what they're called.
Well, they were being built at that time. This is 2007. So he says, those condos right there, listen, you'll have your keys to your own car. You tell me which car. He has a Bentley, and he knows, like, every time he came into the car wash, I really fancied the Bentley, which I think that's how he knew that, like, I liked money, and I would be, like, intrigued by money because his cars, I was like, these are cool cars, man, And so he's like, that Bentley, like, listen, you can have the keys to it. You can have the high rise. And I'm like, for what, though? Like, what am I doing? And he says, you're kind of just my trophy. I'm like, okay, but trophy for what? Like, I like to be a trophy, like a trophy wife, but like a trophy like girlfriend kind of thing. Like, trophy what? And so I'm halfway buying this. I'm like halfway like, holy shit. Like, I'm about to make some money. Like these people that are coming into Fabulous Freddy's again. So I'm up in Summerlin. So I've got all these like young Summerlin moms that look like they're 4 years older than I am, that are driving these cars that are tipping like $100 for a car wash. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Like, I can have this kind of money? And then my sister burst in like, oh, hell to the no.
She came and got you.
Yeah. Her name is Tasha. She was like, this is absolutely not. Grab me, like, we're going. This is not happening. We're leaving. Absolutely not. Like, no. And he's like, hey, like, chill. Everything's all good. What's up? Like, don't worry. Like, she's fine. Like, let her make her own decisions. She's a grown woman. Like, leave her. And she was like, absolutely not. We're leaving.
My stomach hurts listening to this.
Oh yeah, like I'm like, it's so like, and I literally told this story. So you saw on my Instagram this morning. I've told this story to literally maybe 5 people ever. My sister, 1. I think maybe my oldest sister also knows. But it was a seriously shameful moment. And then listening to my sister, like you were about to sell your body for what? A high rise? I'm like, well, no, I wouldn't be selling my body. Like, it would just be like my presence. It would just be my time. Like, I would just be like there, like where all his like rich like lawyers would come into town and like they would have to go to a meeting and I would just be like the girl on the side. She's like, Liza, that's an escort. An escort is essentially like you're one step away from these men saying like, actually, you're not just my trophy. You're also going to be my toy. And so like hearing all of this and like realizing like the slippery slope I was on for the topic of money. I didn't have daddy issues. My dad, like he was literally just at my house yesterday in my pool hanging out. Like my family, we are a very close, tight-knit family, but to know that money, nothing other than money. I had attention, I had all these things, but that was going to be something that made me go down this road that then, since then I've watched all these documentaries and I've like seen like what could have happened. And I get so like, I don't think about myself anymore because that's past. Like I said no, but like how many girls now that they don't look like I looked when I was 18. They look like 30. They look like 26. They look like they don't look like they're little 18-year-old girls. That I'm sure they work at Fabulous Freddy's. I'm sure these men still go there.
Sure.
They work at all these different places. And so I don't know, for me it was an interesting like aha moment. And then not long after that, a couple years after that, I was introduced to Les Brown. I don't know if you're familiar. Yes. Obsessed. Love him. And I say, like, for a long time, I was too cool for personal development because it also meant, like, looking at that story and, like, looking at my demons in the face to see as what they were, you know? And I got to sit down and have dinner with Les Brown. And I will say, like, he almost, like, single-handedly changed my life. Like, I opened up and I said, like, I almost went down this road. Like, I need to know that there's a place for me somewhere else, you know? And then his story, I don't know if you're familiar with his story. He was...
Before we talk about Les, let's take a step back because I know, thank you for sharing that.
I've never done that.
Thank you for sharing that. I know that before the show and even intro to the show was that you get to be the woman that other women need today. So knowing what you know from that experience, what did you learn that someone else can hear this and learn and know?
I think it's a multifaceted lesson, right? I think that because I never looked at myself as like the smart one or the witty one or the one that like I never like my sisters were all smart. My brother was smart. Like, and just because they like woke up and were just like smart, like I had a really hard time understanding things. Or like I would read a book and have to read it twice before I would like, oh, okay, like that's what that was about. Or I'd have to like get the cliff notes after I read it. And so I think for me, what that lesson initially taught me was there are other talents that I have that can allow me to win. I think that because of what my dad did for a living, and I wanted so badly to kind of go down that road, but I also knew that he was, and I mean this in the sweetest way because he's so talented, but he had that like kind of like starving artist for a while. Like he doesn't get paid what he should. He doesn't get paid what he's worth, and he's really good. And so I think that because of his fear of me doing that and his push to do something else. And
to be an entertainer.
Go be what your mom does. Go do it. Your mom's a nurse. Like that's guaranteed. Or my grandfather really wanted me to go into like X-ray. But I think because he saw my dad and like he saw him, he was a musician and like that lifestyle can be really difficult, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think in my head, no one told me this, but in my head, I think that I thought the talents that I have, the magic that I have won't give me the success, the money, the time freedom, the things that I want. It won't give me any of that. And society says you go to school, you graduate, you get a good job, you work for the same company, which no longer exists for 40 years, you retire, and that's what it is. Like, and so I had that in my head, knowing that it was bullshit. And so I feared for so long. So this experience shook me of like, okay, you clearly want money in a way, like you clearly want this. And I was about to like enter college and I was so scared to go to college because I didn't want to do anything that college had to offer.
Yeah.
But I knew that if I didn't, then I wouldn't have the education. And like, then I'd be damned, but go to school and get a degree in basket weaving, whatever it is, just have the degree. So I think that the original lesson was I have talents, and a lot of people have talents that aren't the ones that when you take the test in school of what you're going to be when you grow up and your talents don't land on any of those things on that list, it doesn't mean you have to resort to doing things that will jeopardize your morals, that will jeopardize who you want to be.
Yes.
Because I know who I want to be, and that would have gone against every fiber of my being.
Yeah.
But I tried really hard to rationalize it in that moment. And so the main lesson was, like, to reiterate that your talents, regardless of what they are, we can monetize your talents. Now more than ever, in 2023, we can monetize those talents.
Yes.
Somehow, some way.
Yes.
You don't have to feel like you're trapped to go do the 9 to 5 and then feel like if my only option is not to do that, to sit down with someone that can put you up in a penthouse and make you really pretty.
Yeah.
Like there are other options.
I think that's really what's really important too is before this live interview, you were talking about the experience, and we'll call it what it is. You were groomed.
Yeah, for sure.
You were groomed. They found you at a young age. They created a relationship. He knew what you were interested in. He knew it was your birthday. And so also he appeared to be a safe person.
Yeah.
Appeared to be. And that is not, it is not, sadly enough, an atypical story for a young woman. In Vegas, I'll say that, in Vegas and other large cities where that happens more than we want to say it does. And so by sharing your story, the lesson is one from, I wouldn't say being naive.
Yeah.
Being
Absolutely.
naive, being young, being amazing and brilliant and just doing your thing. Someone picked up on that and was like, hey, let me give you an opportunity. And by the virtue of the work that you do today, opportunities everywhere. So it was an opportunity. Mm-hmm. And thank God you had someone step in and go, hey, wake up. This isn't what you want. But it was the money that was really, really, really sexy and attractive.
Yeah.
And I can't blame you for that. I wouldn't blame any young woman for looking at that kind of money to go, holy shit, this could change my life.
Oh, yeah.
But is it the right move? And that's a thread for everything you're sharing, for nursing, for hospitality, for everything. And you had to at some point go, what is my lane?
Yeah.
What do I want?
Well, then unfortunately, it really bled into, so then anyone that I met, because I lived in Vegas and I had the opportunity to meet a lot of really rich people, anyone that I would meet, I would get to know a little bit close and I would find the shady things that they would do. So then by 24, 25, I had it in my mind, the only way for me to be really, really rich is to be really, really slimy, is to step on a lot of people, is to hurt people, to take shortcuts, to be bad and to be all the things that I don't want to be. Like, I tried it. I'll be honest. I almost did all of these bad things to make money. And then I was like, wait a minute, this doesn't allow me to be who I want to be.
Yeah.
So it was that kind of that one moment that was a catalyst for me of wait, to make big money, you got to do bad things. So then for a while I was like, well, I guess I'll just be poor or I'll struggle. That's fine.
Then I'm just going to go back and be a nurse or because you went back into you went into the medical field.
So I was working in the emergency room.
Yeah.
I started working in the emergency room at 19. I was a secretary. And for a really long time, I was ashamed to say that I was a secretary. So I allowed people to think, I would say I work in the emergency room or I work in emergency medicine. And I would allow people to let their imagination go wherever it was because I was embarrassed that I was a secretary. Mm-hmm. So then I went back to school and I got a college degree and I still was a secretary. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, well, I do this, And so then
big ambition, big dreams, and then the activity, the choices you were making just didn't match. How did you reconcile that? So maybe that comes back to Les Brown and personal development, right? How did you reconcile that?
So I then got heavy into network marketing when I was 24. And I was like, okay, this is what I dated a millionaire from my previous company who was a kind of sleazy and did a lot of bad things. Everybody loved him. He was one of the most charismatic people I've ever met. And I was close enough to him where I'm like, wait a minute, this is the kind of money that this industry makes. And I know the kind of work that he's doing because I'm there. I'm listening to the calls. I'm listening to him mentor people. I'm listening to him coach people. I can do that and I can get this. Wait, now we're talking. Now this is my jam. And so I worked really, really hard for a really long time. I unfortunately did a lot of the wrong things, but I was working really hard. And so I had it in the dream was the same. I was then sold on the idea of time freedom. I was sold on the idea of residual income. I was sold on the idea of not going the traditional route. I saw more and more people not working with their same company for all these years. I saw more and more people get laid off and bumped positions and all of this stuff happening for the company that they've worked so hard for and dedicated so much time to that I was like, wait, I like this. And so I struggled for a long time, but I worked hard and I knew that it was going to happen. And so I tried a lot of different things. I started multiple different businesses. Before video was cool, we were doing, my friend Julianne and I, it was called JNL TV. And we were doing videos in 2012 and everyone was like, what are you guys doing? You're
on MySpace?
So weird. Yeah. Well, right after MySpace.
Yeah.
When we had no idea we were doing videoing, editing, it would take us 5 days to edit one video.
Right.
But so I had done a lot of different things, but throughout all of that, I promised myself that I was going to be a forever student. I knew the feeling of what it would have felt like going down the wrong way. And so I knew that this was my right way. Not everybody agreed with it. Not everybody liked it, but this was my right way. Mm-hmm. And so I worked hard. I continued the personal development. I continued learning the skills because with this industry, people don't necessarily tell you up front, you've got to learn skills. This is a skill set that you have to learn.
It is.
But if you're not willing to learn it, you're not going to do well. And then you're going to have a bad experience. And then you're going to speak poorly about the industry. And then people like me are going to have to do all the work to make other people say, wait a minute, I can do this. I can do this whether I'm a full-time employee, a full-time mom, a single mom.
Right.
Tired, had 19 jobs. I can do this in whatever my life looks like. I can add this industry, this stream of income in. And that's what kept me going. Me and anybody in any different position, whether you're like me or not, can do this.
Yeah.
You know?
You're going to do it your way.
I had to do it my way.
It's clear.
Authority and I don't match. I don't. And that's the thing, literally even getting dressed for this, I was like, should I wear a blazer? Should I wear a dress? And I was like, Liza, part of the reason why you don't want to have a job, you don't want to work for somebody else is because simple things like, I don't want to wake up to an alarm clock. I don't want to be told this is your uniform. I don't want to be told don't say fuck. I don't want to be told and that sounded, for a long time, I thought that was trivial, that I was working so hard to not have that when other people are working so hard for a laundry list of really beautiful, philanthropic things, which I also like that. But my main goal was 5 a.m. wake ups. This is for the birds. You know what I mean?
I do. So take us back to that Les Brown moment, because that was going to be you had something powerful to share there. What was the learning that you took away from that dinner? And how did you get to a table of dinner? How did you get to dinner with him?
So my father he's an entertainer. And so I've watched him my whole life from stage create relationships with people, eye contact and body movement. And so I've learned, and then my mom is also very she's kind of an enigma. And so I've watched them have conversations with people from a really young age, even people that you're calling customer service people. And so from him, I learned relationships will take me far. And so Eric Worre is a huge network marketing professional here in Las Vegas, actually. He lives here. And he would have all of these events called GoPro. And so I was way too poor to get into them at that point. So I was like, how do I get to these events? I have to get there. I was very creative. I'm a creative strategist. I'm going to find out. And so I was like, I can volunteer. Oh my God. And so I volunteered, and I was at the back of the room, and there was this gentleman who looked like he was about to pass out. And I was like, okay, let me go help him. And so I'm talking to this guy, and I'm like, hey, are you okay? Let's get you some water. Let me get you a chair. So I'm taking care of this guy for a little bit. And then he says, he looks really wealthy, but everyone there looks really wealthy. Everyone there, their whole goal is to sell themselves, right? And so I'm like, this guy, who is this guy? And so afterwards, he gave me his card. He says, hey, I want you to text me later. You just saved me from going to the hospital. I was gonna call 911 right now. I was going down. Call me later. So then the connection started to build. And so he got invited to a very small, intimate event with Les Brown. That was $10,000 for the smallest ticket. He said, I want you to be my +1. I was like, I don't got $10,000. He's like, +1 means you're my guest. And I was like, oh, okay, great. So good, because I didn't have it. But I was going to try to find it, even though it probably wouldn't have been legal. But I was going to go. I'm just kidding. Kind of. And so, kidding. And so I went as his guest. And Les Brown is a storyteller. Part of his, strength is storytelling. And so it was a whole journey learning how to tell your story. And so I got to get up on his stage and start to tell different bits and pieces of my story. And then at that event, a smaller 10 people got to go to dinner. And the guy that I was with was like, you're still my +1, come to dinner. And he said, but this is going to be high level conversation. You need to be prepared. Your phone will not be out. You will not say fuck. You will not do any, this is a big deal for you.
Bring your A game.
Okay, you're right. He said, so do you want to practice before? He's going to ask you some high level questions. I'm like, okay, yeah. And so he's like, so what did you learn today in terms of your story? Tell me a little about your story. And I started, he's like, none of that is what we learned. Try again. And so I was learning how to tell my story to Les Brown.
Yeah.
And we go to dinner, and it is nothing like I thought. It is so chilled, so laid back. He pulls out a thing of mascara and puts it on his hair because he has grays, and he's covering his grays.
That's awesome.
And he starts to tell us these stories of his story. And he is what everyone would have said he's not going to make it, and that he shouldn't have made it, and he shouldn't have done these things. And he started off as a radio host that they didn't want him to do it, and the radio host was drunk, and so he called the producer and said, I gotta get him out of here. I gotta get him out of there. And he's like, okay. So he came into the show and finished the show, and people liked him. That's kind of how he got started. But he had stories of sleeping on his office floor because he didn't have a home. He had all sorts of different stories. And he looked at me and he said, hey, you've said to me 3 times that people tell you that you talk too fast. They don't listen fast enough. And I said, what? He said, stop letting other people tell you that you're not great. And so I'm sitting there at a dinner with all these people probably worth billions of dollars together. Right. And I'm like, what is happening? And he's grabbing my arm and he's telling me, you You're not them. You're not me. You are you. And don't let anyone tell you that you talk too fast, that you're too short, you're too young, you're too blonde, you're too this. Because I've been told my whole life that I'm too much of whatever or not enough of whatever. And I told him part of that story. And he said, today that stops. Mm-hmm. So at that point, I stopped trying to talk slower. I stopped trying to sit prim and proper. Yep. I stopped trying to do and be the things that other people wanted me to be. And it was a really long journey. I think the change doesn't happen like that.
No.
The decision to change has happened like that. And that day I made the decision that I want to start doing all of this for me. So when people say, what do you do? I'm not going to say that maybe I'm going to go back to school to be a nurse. I'm going to say I work in the emergency room and I'm building a network marketing professional business. And I had to put the armor on for that.
That's right.
Because people want to take shots at you all day long.
Yeah, they do. They do. Can you share with the audience your shot in the didn't happen when you were in the emergency room and a doctor, right?
Yep.
This is a good example of the shot. So we're going to come back to Liza and her story, but this is for you watching this, that people are going to take shots. Do what you want to do anyway. Mm-hmm. And you're such an incredible guest for so many reasons. And I hope that someone takes that away today, that whatever it is you want as a woman of the 21st century in 2023 in America, you can do what you want.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what was this shot?
So I'm a secretary in the emergency room. I had been since I was 19 years old. At this point, I think I was 25, 26, maybe 27 even. Gosh, maybe even 28. I don't know. And my best friend was a nurse, but she was in school to be a nurse practitioner. And so I'm at my desk and I'm like tapping away, and he comes behind me. He grabs my shoulders. He says, Liza, in a real condescending way. I can already tell I hate this conversation before it begins. Mm-hmm. So he says, Liza. And I said, uh-huh. He says, you see this right here? And he pats my best friend's back. This is Christina. And I said, uh-huh. He said, she's what we call a role model. She gets to go home and tell her husband that she saves lives for a living. And you get to go home and tell yours that you answer phones. It's like a hardcore, cheesy, nasty smile. And it took everything in me not to whoosh,
crying,
waterworks. Because when I get mad, I cry, which is even worse, because then you cry and you're mad and you're like, I'm not crying because I'm sad. I'm crying because I hate you. And so I'm like, do not cry. Do not cry. You're going to give him the satisfaction of making you feel like a weak little girl, and that's what he wants right now, and do not do it. And so I turned around and I said, Doc, if that's all you think I do, then you really miss what happens around here. Mm-hmm. And then my best friend, of course, came to my rescue and was like, you're literally, you have no idea what she does outside of here. You have no idea what she does in here for 12 and a half hours. Leave, get to walk in, see you later.
Yeah. And
it's interesting because people will say, you'll forget what people say, you'll forget what people will do, but you'll never forget how people make you feel. And for a long time, I allowed it though. People made me feel really, really small for so long that I didn't play full out. So I worked really, really hard for all of these years, but I wasn't giving it 100% because I was so afraid of what other people thought. And I thought that if they thought that I was a loser, or that I was just trying too hard, or that I was just trying to sell Avon and marry Kay, which is nothing is wrong with that, then I'm just some bump on a log loser secretary that's going to always be. And I had this huge narrative in my head that likely wasn't even true, that maybe one or two people thought, but I had it I would walk into work and I'd be like, boo, 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 boo. Everyone thinks that I suck. And then I acted that way. Yep. And then I wasn't confident, and I didn't lead with my shoulders back and my head lifted high, which is how I was raised. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so it was interesting. And at that moment, it was that moment right there. There's multiple moments that you have, right? Yep. I think things are when you're learning things, they're caught, not taught sometimes. And some of these moments, I caught these huge learning moments. And in that moment was, you can let people make you feel a certain way, or you can decide how you want to feel in that moment and change the narrative. Mm-hmm. We can change the narrative. These are all stories anyways. If you don't like the story that's being told to you, throw a fairy in that bitch. Who cares? Start a new story. So then a different doctor who kind of was on the same road. He was talking about how he was all excited. He was buying his daughter a pony. I was 20 years old. I remember this. He said, I'm buying my daughter a pony for Christmas. Mm-hmm. So excited. He bought the daughter the pony. And then the next year, Christmas rolls around. We're having conversations. And I said, wait, didn't you ever buy your daughter that pony? He said, yeah, I bought it last year. I said, you've literally never talked about it. He said, honestly, I've never seen her ride it. And I was like, 1 year and you've never seen her ride that pony?
Yeah.
This is why I do what I do. You're an esteemed doctor and you're respected and people love you, but you work nonstop and you don't get to enjoy your money. Like, I can't have that. And so I respect you and I respect the education that you have and the position that you have in this society, but I refuse to let you make me feel less than because the position that I'm choosing is not what you learned in society. It's not what you learned is okay. Just because it's not okay for you doesn't mean I'm going to allow that belief to bleed into mine.
Exactly. I love that. More, please. More of that, please. Ladies, this is such a great example for you, I think. Liza's such a great example for you that, and we talk about this all the time on the show, and I bring on so many different kinds of guests for this reason to say, if there is a dream, you do not have to follow the path that everyone has taken. You do not have to go the route that your parents went. You don't have to go the route that people are telling you to go. I'm surrounded by entrepreneurs every single day who we just make it happen based on our talents, our dreams, our desires. And you're right. No one is going to tell you, it's never happened to me. I'm sure it hasn't happened to you. No one's going to tell you or give you permission to do what you want.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to have an opinion. And what a great conversation to say today, to say, no, thank you. No, thank you.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your business today. Yes. These are all really amazing lessons. Thank you. And it sounds like we were talking about selling fake IDs before the show.
Yes.
It happens in Vegas all the time. I remember, sorry, Mom and Dad, if you hear this, but I remember being like 16 years old. I had my brand new license and I handed it over to somebody to cut it up and turn it into a fake ID. So for years, it never happened. We didn't follow through with it. But for years, I walked around with this cut up ID because I was going to try to make it into a fake ID. Anyway, I digress. There's always been, for lack of a better term, I think that for you, it is appropriate, this hustle inside of you. From the place that you're going to do what you need to do, not always easily, and it took time. How young are you today?
I'm 34.
I say 34. Yeah, I say young for everyone.
I love that.
Yeah. So from your 20s to 34, you've had to make decisions along the way. Nope, I'm not going to be that. Nope, I'm not going to listen to that. No, I'm going to choose my own way. I'm going to wear what I want to wear, which is exactly why I started my own business.
Yes.
I'm not wearing that. No, thank you.
Yes.
I'm going to wear what I want to wear. I'm going to say what I want to say. It has not been an easy journey. And today at the age of 34, what do you have as a result in your life of listening to yourself?
That was like an overwhelming sense of calm. I am wildly proud of myself. I have a life right now that I have designed, that I fought really hard for, that I worked really hard for, that is the dream that I somehow feel like, careful, the shoe might drop. Hold on. But I live right now this life that is a dream that I've been writing down in these dream notebooks. Every year you'll envision. For a long time I was like, okay, this is the same damn dream. When is it ever going to happen? Mm-hmm. And these last couple of years I've been waking up and Liza, it's happening. So Jim Rohn, he talks about that's him, that's the famous man. I sometimes feel like that in my life of this is my house right now. This is my journey. This is my business. This is my, and for a long time I really wanted a seat at the table, Lisa, and I was waiting for someone to invite me. I had to walk up to the table, many tables, try them all out, pull out the chair, and sit down. Mm-hmm. And it has given me this ability to dream bigger. It's given me this ability to be the woman that I needed to be back then. I have business partners right now that are 26 to 65. And the conversations that we have about where they are in their life, mm-hmm. to be able to be a part of this journey, to be able to be a service, to serve many people, without giving up my time freedom, without giving up the financial freedom that I wanted, without giving all that up, to me I did dream of it, but I didn't think that I could fully do it. Mm-hmm. And now I'm doing it. And it's imperative for me. It's a necessity of mine to teach other people.
Yeah.
that they can do it too. And for me, I believe this is the best industry in the entire world to do it. And so I will run through a brick wall until I tell enough people and show enough people and hold their hand and show them the systems along the way, because I will be damned if I know someone else is stuck where I was stuck.
Yeah.
And then not help them. Like, no way, no way.
No way. No way. So you don't have to sell out your morals. Ladies, there are ways for you to have the life that it is that you want without having to sell yourself, your dreams, your body. We are here to be a voice for you today.
Yeah.
Right? Vegas women, Vegas girls, there is more value to you than what you look like. Right?
Yep.
And for me, I've shared my story before on Real Money that I had a huge unworthy conversation. I made it up. You had an unworthy conversation, not your words, mine, but that's what showed up. You made a decision that you weren't smart enough, not good enough. Who else is listening to this today who can relate? Right?
So many people.
So many people. And at the age of 34, you're crushing it. What have you learned about money? Some key takeaways about money in this journey so far. You've got you've got years to go.
Yeah.
But at the age of 34, what are those little nuggets that you can share about money that you learned?
So similar to how you say it, I just used different words. To me, money is nothing more than a unit of choice. It allows us more choice or less choice. It will allow you to be, because I thought for a long time that you had to be a bad person, money will make you more of who you already are. If you have more money to do good with, you'll do it. If you have more money to do bad with and you're inherently not so great, you'll likely take down that path. But I've learned that some parts in people's journey, money is a big, scary monster. And we don't want to look at it, and we don't want to talk about it, and we don't want to think about it. But unfortunately, that big, hairy monster is going to grow when that's our mentality of it. And so I think I've learned to find people like you, to seek people like you out, to have people that are willing to talk to you. And I was listening to your podcast driving up, and that you feel blessed and honored when people open up about their financial situation. And I imagine the way that you feel that way is because it's such a heavy topic. And so my biggest piece of advice is seek out help. Seek out help from anybody that are doing what you want to do. If you want a better financial situation, find someone to help you untangle yours currently.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times we lie to ourselves about it, and then we're spinning our wheels to get somewhere. Right. When if we would have just had someone like you be honest with us, we could have done it. You know what I mean? I think that I've learned that money, we have to have it. And people want to say that money doesn't bring you happiness. Well, it's right up there with oxygen. Yeah, you need it, and it's gonna make your life a whole lot easier when you have it. But I've also learned that money is really beautiful. And it's sexy, and it's confidence, and it is security, and it's comfort. And it can be so many things, but it also doesn't have to be the stories that we make it.
That's right. That's right. That's a great way to end the show. Where can people find you, Liza?
I am on Instagram at liza.henley, Liza, like Manelli, Henley, same as Facebook.
Yeah, and she's got a really active presence on social media. I love following you. I'm so grateful that we met. There's no accident that we're in each other's worlds today. I look forward to having you back on the show and sharing all the amazing things that you're up to. And for all the women listening today and men, follow your dreams, have the courage, find mentors, break through your own limiting beliefs. And Liza and I are here to help you do that. Thanks for joining me on Real Money today. I'll be back next time with a brand new guest, a brand new topic. And if you're interested in multi-level marketing, Liza's your gal. Follow her and let us know what questions you have. We'll see you next time.